My friend Brianna throws the best parties. The food is great, the decorations are great, everyone's always having a great time. And one of her specialty dishes, which she shared with me, and I've kind of adapted the recipe because we're not the sort of people that write things down, but she has a recipe for shooters. She's an Italian, and she has this Italian grandmother who always made these pickled cherry peppers stuffed with Asiago cheese and prosciutto and then marinated, and they're so delicious. Every time she makes them at a party, they totally disappear, and then the times I've made them at a party too, people are always asking, what's the recipe, how do I do this? So I'm going to share it with you today. So thank you, Brianna, and your mom and your grandma for this great recipe. Which starts out with sweet cherry peppers, which you can find in most supermarkets. And they're these pickled peppers, and while they say they're sweet, there is a little bit of a kick to them. Maybe it's just the vinegar, I don't know. And what you want to do when you're getting them for the shooter recipe is to look for jars that have pretty big peppers in them. You don't want them huge, but they should be, I don't know, about the size of a ping pong ball, if possible. Some of the smaller ones, like, this is a good size, but some of the smaller ones, like this one, are going to be really hard to stuff. So I always end up with a few leftover peppers after I've made this dish because the small ones just are too little. Just save them. They're great chopped up on pizzas, tossed into pastas, or even just put on an antipasti platter to eat straight. This recipe requires a little bit of work, but it's totally worth it. And the work really mainly comes from de-seeding the peppers. So once you get your peppers, you want to take off the stem end and with a paring knife, and it's good to go kind of in at an angle and just cut all the way around the stem end. And have a little bowl ready for the refuse because you're going to want to squeeze out all of these seeds. Sometimes you got to dig your finger in there a little bit and yank them out. My dog is here. She's very excited about this right now. She loves shooters. If you leave a few of the seeds in, it's just fine. They're just going to add a little bit of extra heat, but too many of them are a little bit of a texture problem, so you want to get rid of most of them. And try not to tear the pepper too much. I kind of ruined this one. It'll still be fine as long as it's fairly intact. You just want it, to sort of be a cup that will hold the prosciutto and the cheese. So I'm just going to cut up a few more of these. So just go in at an angle. When I'm going really fast, sometimes I'll just slice off the top really, quickly. But you save a little more of the pepper if you take the time to really carefully pare them out. Okay, I have a bunch of them that I've pitted now, so I'll show you how to start stuffing them. And all you really do, I've got a nice pepper right here, is you want to take a chunk of Asiago. Asiago is a little bit like Parmesan cheese in that it's got this strong, sort of salty flavor, but it's a little bit softer and not quite as crystallized and nutty and intense as Parmesan, so it's a really nice choice for this dish. And I have some thin sliced prosciutto right here that I've actually cut even further into skinny strips because you don't really need a whole slice of prosciutto that's this wide. It's going to be way too big to stuff into this little pepper. So I just slice it maybe in thirds, maybe in half, depending on your slices. So you just have a nice sort of skinny strip. Take a chunk of cheese, wrap it in the prosciutto. And if you want to make these vegetarian, what you could also do is thinly slice an eggplant. Brush it with a little olive oil and either bake it or grill it, and then use the eggplant to wrap the piece of cheese and stuff into the pepper. That would be really tasty. Then you just shove this in here, and usually it's actually kind of a pretty look, but you almost have this little rosette of prosciutto coming out with a little bit of cheese in the center, which they're like these little tasty rosettes, and they're delicious. So keep wrapping up your cheese. And prosciutto is a really nice choice for this because it's ham, and it's cured, and it's got kind of a salty sweetness, but it's not as intense as like an American ham in terms of saltiness, and so you're going to have a really nice flavor. Just going to do one more, and then I'll show you how to make the marinade. And the marinade is really it's really just going to be garlic and some fresh rosemary and some olive oil and some hot pepper flakes to give it a little heat. With most of the time you'd think, oh, well, I'll add a little vinegar to it also, but remember that these little cherry peppers have already been pickled, and so they've got a really tart, tangy, vinegary flavor right now, and so if you add more vinegar, it's just going to be too intense. So you really probably don't need to do that at all. And what I like to do, ratio-wise, it kind of depends on how many you're doing. I usually like to make at least 2 full jars worth of these peppers, and you know, because you have a few that you can't use, you'll probably make something like, I don't know, 20 to 25 of these. This is a 16-ounce jar. What I like to do for the marinade is I've got a little bit of chopped garlic right here. I start with maybe a teaspoon of it for a full 2 jars, maybe a little bit more. And about half a teaspoon of chopped fresh rosemary. And then I like these spicy, so I also add half a teaspoon of chili flakes. And these are just red pepper flakes that you can buy in the store, really easy. And then I just drizzle it with a bunch of olive oil. If I were to measure it, I would say it's probably 1/4 of a cup to 1/3 of a cup. What you just really want to do is get all of the flavors of the garlic and the rosemary and the chili flakes into the oil and then into the shooters. And then you can let these marinate up to overnight in the refrigerator. Toss them with your hands. These are clean hands. Cover them up and just let them marinate and let all those flavors blend. And then dump them in a bowl, serve them with toothpicks, and they're beautiful and they're really delicious. That's a big mouthful, but believe me, your guests will be